Another exciting edition of Sports Extraordinary Weekend Edition here on Atlantic Television Network. On this edition of the program, this weekend our focus will be on the 13th African Games ongoing in Ghana. Yes, 3 cities in Ghana will host the African Games, and our focus will be on it. You know, Team Nigeria is ably represented at this 13th African Games. So we'll look at the chances of Team Nigeria, one of the most successful teams, country that has participated so far at the African Games. Beyond the African Games, in the world of boxing, this weekend I've seen Anthony Joshua prove again that he's one of the most recognized heavyweight boxers in history. We'll let you know how Anthony Joshua have made a statement of intent of claiming back his title at the heavyweight category. And Basketball League in Africa is underway this weekend. This is a weekend where we have the Kalahari Conference dunk off in style. So the 4th edition of the Basketball League here in Africa this weekend. A lot to talk about this weekend. It's a sporting weekend indeed on Atlantic Television Network. We'll take a break. When we return from the break, we'll serve you first with the African Games ongoing in Accra, Ghana, and thereafter let you know the latest from the world of boxing and basketball. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's Sports Extraordinary Weekend Edition here on Atlantic Television Network, and on this edition of the program I have with me in-house Kingsley Mao. Nice to have you, Kingsley.
Thank you very much for having me, sir. Very happy to be here.
And beyond Kingsley, we are having all the way live from Ghana, Accra, Ghana to be specific, the Secretary General of the Sports Writers Association of Nigeria, who is in Ghana to cover up the 13th African Cup of Nations. Ikenna Okonkwo. Ikenna, nice to have you on this edition of Sports Extraordinary Weekend Edition here on Atlantic Television Network. Can you hear me, Ikenna? Can you hear me, Ikenna? Can you hear me? Well, just before I get back to Ikenna, Kingsley, you're here. The 13th African Games is already here with us. It started effectively yesterday with an opening ceremony. But before the opening ceremony, we have witnessed some games that have started, especially table tennis, you know, and one other event that already started. Team Nigeria is there with nearly 360 athletes, and what do you expect from Team Nigeria so far? In table tennis, we have come second behind Egypt in both the male and female events.
Yeah, for me, I think a lot of expectation from Team Nigeria, looking at the fact that, you know, will not, you know, actually disappoint when it comes to this particular, you know, championship. Nigeria has always, of course, been a very strong force in the All-African Games since it got, you know, started. This time around, going down, you know, to participate in about 25 sports, I think is really an impressive one for what we've seen, the preparation. And talking about the table tennis events we've seen so far, I think the table tennis players, they try and was kind to show progress. We saw the likes of Effiong, she was the first, you know, player to win a medal. That was a bronze medal, followed by Aruna Quadri, who won, you know, a silver medal. So far, so good. I think it's been two bronze medals and 2 silver medals, you know, for Team Nigeria in the table tennis, you know, events. It has not been that bad. We've seen the cricket team, of course, they were able to get, you know, past, you know, their opponent. Though their first game, of course, didn't end very well, due to rain. But the second game, they were able, of course, to skate through. We've also seen, the Flying Eagles of Nigeria. Yes, they didn't get a very good result, in their first game, but we hope to see them bounce back as well. The Falconets also played yesterday, which they also, won their game. So for me, I think a lot of expectation from Team Nigeria. We've not even take a look at, weightlifting and athletics, where we have that, strong, that means of getting a medal. So let's say it goes for Team Nigeria.
Well, can you hear me from here? Can you hear me? Okay. You are in you are in Accra, Ghana, venue of the 13th African Games, and we understand a lot of Nigerian African countries are out there, and the opening ceremony did kick off yesterday at the University of Ghana's sports complex. Can you give us a look of what the opening ceremony looks like? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now, Can you hear me now? Can you hear me, Ikenna? Can you hear me, please? Ikenna, can you hear me? Well, I think we're having a little bit of background noise out there. We hope to establish contact with Ikenna, the Secretary General of the Sports Writers Association of Nigeria, that is in Accra, Ghana, venue of the ongoing 13 African Games. But we were talking about it in the studio here with Kingsley. Team Nigeria did kick off their participation in table tennis event, where 2 medals has been won already. One a bronze color by Effiong, and of course Haruna Quadri winning the silver as well. Only yesterday there was more table tennis event both in the male and the female category, and the dominance of Egypt was on showcase. Kingsley, what can Nigeria do to topple Egypt, maybe in the next, not this African Games?
For me, I think it's going to be a very tough one. We have to prepare more than what, of course, we've done, at this point in time. If you take a look at our players, they've not really lived up to expectation as much, as we expect. The likes of Effiong, getting a bronze medal is not what, of course, so many Nigerians, expected, from her. I think everyone actually expected, of course, to see her maybe getting probably, a gold medal in this particular one. Haruna Quadri, of course, one man that has not really gotten a medal when it has to do with the All-African Games. He was in the final, and he was taken out, by an Egyptian as well. Talking about, Marsa in his own events, and then he took, the silver medal in that particular one. So for me, I think we really have to go back, and keep ourselves when it has to do with table tennis. Yes, the players we have now, in the Table Tennis Federation, not that they are so bad, but for what we've seen so far, I think we have to go back. Take a look at the Egyptians, the likes of Omar Assar, the likes of Dina Meshrif as well. These are players, of course, that have been consistent in the All-African Games, for a very long time. And from what we've seen so far, it has to do with a lot of preparation. We have to prepare more than what we've done, at this time around. Take a look at Olajide Omotayo, Effiong, Haruna Quadri, Kuti as well. These are the players, of course, that we can actually lay our hands on or say they can at least deliver a medal for us. But so for me, I think this dominance by the Egyptians has been for a very long time. It's then time for the Table Tennis Federation of Nigeria to step up their game and see how they can prove themselves, whenever championship like this come up. Okay,
the 13 African Games is ongoing in Accra, Ghana. 3 cities will host this event. We understand Cape Coast and Kumasi, the second largest city in Ghana, are hosting some of the events. But for Nigeria, we started before the opening ceremony that got underway yesterday in the table tennis and in football. Let's look at football in the male category. The Flying Eagles were involved in an encounter against Uganda. It looks like the Lazambozu's lad lost in the very first game by 2-1. Is this a good sign to come?
Not a good sign at all. Not a good sign at all. We saw how they prepared, down there in Abuja. and you take a look at the preparation and some of the games they played, they did very well. They were able, of course, to at class, some teams down here in Nigeria before they went for this one. It's not a very good one, not a very good start as well for the Flying Eagles of Nigeria. Losing to Uganda 2-1, it's not a very good. We saw how the boys, struggle. And this is actually a call for the coach, of course, to maybe change his tactics or look for a means of seeing how, of course, the boys, can actually dominate. Probably some of these boys are new. They are actually new to the terrain. And from what we've seen so far, some of them are also experienced as well. So for me, Ladan Bose really have to come up, with a different strategy entirely to see how they can stage dominance in this all-African game, or else we might not see them, of course, getting a favorable result, at the end of the day. And Ladan Bose, of course, we've always seen Nigerians not really happy with his approach, towards selection of players, and all of that. Did he actually select the right players? I think at the end of the two matches, that will be seen, we'll know if he actually did his best in terms of players, selection. So for me, I think they really have to step up their game in their next encounter, or else it might not, be a good one for them going forward.
Wrong footing for Nigeria at the beginning of the 13 African Games. In the football event, they are losing by 2-1 to Uganda. Uganda, you remember a couple of weeks ago, Nigeria had beaten them, so it looks like a revenge mission there for Uganda. Host country Ghana yesterday as well played out a goalless draw with Congo. That too looks like a wrong footing by the host country. Expectation was that they were going to take out Congo in this fixture.
Yeah, well, it's wrong footing, you say, wrong start, or let's say bad start as well for the host country, talking about Ghana in this one. They should have actually gone past Congo. Football-wise, or maybe how we talk about, pedigree in football, you always, give Ghana more edge, even in the under-20 team, ahead of Congo. But I think African football, has taken another shape. Congo were able to get, to the semi-final of the African Cup of Nations in Cote d'Ivoire. And that actually gives them an edge when it has to do with football development, at this point in time. So, like I mentioned, even in the under-20, even in the senior team, you see that football has really taken in a very good shape. So, I think the under-20 side of Ghana, they really have to step up if they really want to go find the competition. On the 20
side of Ghana, the host country will have to step up if they have to make an impact in the football event at the ongoing 13 African Games in Ghana. We saw Republic of Benin play a goalless draw as well with Gambia in one of the fixtures played a couple of hours ago. That's in the male category. In the female category, the Falconers were in action as well, and they look better than the Flying Eagles because they beat their opponents by 2-0. Falconers beating their counterparts from Morocco by 2-0. All 2 goals coming in the first half of the encounter.
Impressive, of course, outing, an impressive start for the Falconers of Nigeria. Beating Morocco, of course, is not, an easy feat, if you ask me. Morocco, they are one of the countries down here in Africa that has a very good pedigree now when it has to do with, football. And the Falconers, of course, taking them down by 2-0 in the first half of that particular one, I think was really, really a surprising one. But I think the girls, of course, they are up to the task. If you take a look at the way they played, of course, you know that they actually merit that win. They deserve that particular win. So I think for me, it's a good start, and this will really go a long way in motivating the girls in trying to make sure they do more.
Choma Olise with the first goal for the Falconets, and we saw Ado Philomena scoring the second goal in the 40th minute against their counterparts from Morocco. Let's hope that they'll continue in that state. After all, the Falconets are defending champions of the goal event at the football of the African game. So we will root for them and hope that they will continue in their victory lane there in Ghana. Well, time for us to look at the opening ceremony. We've seen the opening ceremony, like we mentioned to you, nearly 5,000 athletes, across African countries taking part in 29 sports disciplines. And reports from Accra, Ghana, doesn't seem to be very, very okay, given that we understand there were some kind of a problem with the opening ceremony. Most of the participating countries did not take part at the opening ceremony per se. Yes, they were in Accra, Ghana to participate in the game, but at the ceremony, they could not take part. Kingsley, we are told that the protocols, the country's protocol has it that if you are an athlete under the age of 18, then you are not permitted to be at the opening ceremony. What do you make of this? Does this look nice? Are we having Ikena back any moment soon? Can I hear with Jesus? Okay, Kisley. So because of that, most of the countries did not send in their athletes for the match pass. Yesterday in Ghana, you were told the country protocols. If you're 18 years or under, you cannot be part of the opening ceremony.
I think exactly that means. Maybe I think for me they have what they want to achieve with that particular one. But for me, coming up with that particular one, I don't think it actually holds water, because if the athletes are being 18 or under 18, of course, can participate in the opening ceremony, or probably can actually put up their presence, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But maybe the organizers, they have what they are targeting, they have what, of course, they're looking up to. I don't really know the brain behind, the fact that, they're trying to, of course, stop athletes under 18 or maybe 18 years of age, from participating in this one. So I think the organizers, they really have what to achieve at, putting up this particular rule.
Well, the organizing committee out there in Ghana, I say somehow needs to improve on the it. But again, if it's the country's protocol, what can we say out there? We also equally understand that some of the numbers that should have been part of the opening ceremony was hampered because of poor means of transportation. It looks like the organizing committee do not have a pool of transport system where people can come in numbers. Is that they've allowed the respective countries to make arrangements for their own transportation to the opening ceremony.
And for me, I think that is very poor planning, poor organization, because you should be ready, knowing that, of course, the rest of the African countries will be coming down to Ghana, for this particular one. So there should have been proper preparation, for this particular one. I think there should have been means whereby, of course, athletes and their contingents, coming from different countries, that they should be directed, to where the opening ceremony, of course, would take place. So for me, I think it was really poor one down there, and that is not, of course, what the rest of Africa actually expects, from that one, and it makes it difficult, for teams who actually come to participate in this one. It's very difficult for them to find their way around. You're going into a country whereby you don't really know, so there should have been a means whereby these athletes or the countries coming in should find their way with ease, not giving that more stress, and that's what we saw. That little number, at the opening ceremony.
13 African Games opening ceremony beset with a couple of issues. Athletes not being provided with buses to and fro for the opening ceremony, and forcing them now to trek to and back to their hostel. Talking about the hostel, Kingsley, we are told too that the state of the dormitories, at the for where that's being used by these athletes are not in a very habitable condition. Some of the contingent from the respective countries will have to now remodel their respective dormitories being used as accommodation for these athletes.
Poor, very poor, very poor. I don't know, I think the organizers, they've not done very well. It takes 4 years for you to prepare, for the All-African Games. 4 years is a very huge time for you to have put, all of these things in place. Why are we seeing, all of this? I think for me, it's not a very good omen at all. After 4 years, the athlete, of course, still complaining, no means, of good and means of transporting the athletes down to where their games, of course, are taking place, and as well where the athletes, of course, they have to rest or stay or sleep is still a problem at this point in time. After 4 years, you've been given the hosting right 4 years before the opening ceremony, and this is what we're seeing at this point in time. So for me, I think the organizers, they've actually not done well in taking a look at what we're seeing at this point in time.
Well, talking about problems that beset the opening ceremony yesterday at Ghana, when 13th African Games got officially underway, we are equally informed that there was accreditation problems. Most of the accreditation badges were not recognized by the scanning devices, at the various venues so far being used, and so you could be accredited, no doubt about it, with your accreditation badge, but when you go to use it, the scanning device do not pick, the system, and so some of the athletes and officials were denied entrance into places where ordinarily they have been given accreditation to be.
I think this is a very, very ugly one. All this distraction, of course, has a way or two, as one or two ways of distracting the athletes, and especially, you know, they are contingent in as well, because in a situation whereby you find difficulties in doing all of these things, it actually, so at some point, you know, makes some athletes, you know, not to give out their best, because all of these are stress. When you undergo all of this stress, so where would the energy come for you to perform very well? So for me, I think it's actually not a very good one, and this might also hamper the strength, you know, or for the athlete, or the strength, you know, of some countries, because in a situation whereby an athlete is being restricted, you know, from participating in a particular event, you know, you never can tell if that particular athlete is actually the best, you know, from that country. It actually might bring up, you know, a very huge setback. So for me, I think the poor planning is actually...
Well, talking about energy reminds me of the fact that one of the areas that, you know, you have to take accreditation to be is the cafeteria or the restaurant. And surprisingly, the scanning device at this area of the restaurant or the cafeteria too rejected some of the athletes and officials. So they couldn't have access to meal. This looks very disturbing.
Very, very disturbing. Very, very disturbing. And like I mentioned, Mr. Siri, this has a very... It can actually go a long way in affecting the performance of the athlete, because in a situation whereby you're not being able to, you know, to feed well, you're not comfortable, you know, how will you be able to perform, you know, at the end or for the day? So for me, I think the organizers, they've not really done well from what we're seeing at this point in time. From hostel issue, now we're having issue of scanning, you know, and all of that. The, you know, opening ceremony, we saw some restrictions, you know, and all of that. For me, it's really bad. It didn't actually show that they've actually utilized the 4 years they were given to host this particular one very well. Looking
at drawbacks that showcased at the opening ceremony yesterday, you are aware the 13 African Games had already started before the official opening ceremony this weekend, but then some events had already gone. But as we speak, at the opening ceremony yesterday, surprisingly, there were no programs or fixtures of events that are coming up subsequently. And for me, this looks like a major drawback from the organizers of the competition. You are aware this 13 African Games is being organized by the African Union, you know, and this looks to me very disturbing that there's no fixture or complete, you know, brochure or program schedule so that you know when, where, and at what time maybe some of this competition will be taking place.
I think it's very bad. I think it's then time we start looking at what, you know, other countries are doing. We saw the Commonwealth game, I think some years ago. We saw how organized it was. They even have a website where you can actually go down there to monitor, you know, the events, you know, of each country, and to know which player is that or which athlete is participating in a particular event. We saw the Commonwealth Games, we saw the World Athletics Championship, we saw the Olympics in Tokyo a few years ago. These are, you know, tournament, or these are championship where, you know, Africa, of course, should learn from. Why is it that you were actually organizing something like this and you don't have, you know, a brochure or probably a functioning site where people can go monitor the events or probably know which event is coming up next? I think for me, it's very poor. And this is what we talk about branding. This is where marketability comes in. In a situation whereby the championship is nowhere branded, how do you attract sponsorship? That's the big question. How do you, you know, attract sponsorship and all of that? Because your sponsors will want to make sure that they are visible. Whenever they come to put in money to advertise, you know, their product, they want to make sure that the world is watching them. The African, you know, games is actually a very, very huge, you know, championship. And looking at all of this, I think the organizers, for me, I would like to use this word, you know, they failed in terms of planning this particular African Games.
More to do from the organizers of the 13 African Games around, because there are a couple of obstacles or events that should not occur, especially in one has to do with accreditation, and beyond the accreditation, you know, align the, you know, the badges align, the devices align the badges to be recognized so that athletes can have access to, especially the cafeteria area, which is very important for the survival of the athletes. Let's stay away from that and just hope that we'll have some good news coming from Accra, Ghana. Talking about Accra, Ghana, there are of course 2 other cities apart from Accra, Cape Coast and Kumasi, the second largest city in Ghana, are equally hosting some of the events which is taking place at the games. 29 sports disciplines are being undertaken, where 5,000 athletes are taking place. Kesley, from the 29 sports disciplines, we understand 8 of these sports disciplines are qualifiers to the Paris Olympic Games. What do we expect from Team Nigeria? They have to scale up to ensure that they could use these African Games as a springboard to Olympic Games coming up in Paris in just about a few weeks from now.
Yes, for Team Nigeria, in the table tennis event, of course, we have to. That is where we have to look for look for the athletes, yes, qualification for the Olympics as well. And so far, so good. I think we've not really done well. Taking a look at the performance for the players so far, of younger them, and Kuti or Olajide or Motayo, even Aruna Quadri as well. It hasn't been the best of outing as well. I think cricket is also one of the sports that we'll be looking for qualification as well. And you take a look at the cricket team. Their first game, they didn't do well due to the fact that rain actually stopped their game and they didn't get a favorable result. But they were able to, of course, win their second game, and that's a very good edge, of course, for the cricket team. I think cricket, despite the fact that this is the first time we'll be seeing a cricket championship in the All African Games, and from what we've seen for the female yellow greens, they've not actually disappointed. So for me, I think we should be hopeful of getting the tickets for the Olympics now, maybe the cricket team.
13th edition of the All African Games ongoing in Accra, Ghana, Cape Coast and Kumasi. Team Nigeria, part of the African contingent that are there, hoping to get some slots to the Paris Olympic Games, and of course improve on their rankings in the continent of Africa. We've always come second in the last game. Remember, Nigeria came second as well, just behind Egypt. It is expected that we should take a step further and maybe topple Egypt as overall champions on the medals table or ranking on the African Games. We wish Team Nigeria the very best of luck. Time for us to take a break. When we return from a break, there's more to come. It's because this weekend is a sports-loaded weekend, especially in boxing, where Nigeria British boxer Anthony Joshua continue to prove that he is one of the heavyweights to be reckoned with in this era. When we return from break, we'll fill you with that. And don't forget, Basketball League Africa is dunking off this weekend as well. So we'll let you know how prepared Rivers Hoopers is ahead of their fixture in their conference. Stay with us.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
people into the country illegally. That is amazing. You human trafficker.
Honorable they are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
So no agreement with the EU, but
From the lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, and the happenings around the globe today, only on ATN.
Welcome to yet another exciting edition of Sports Extraordinary Weekend. Of course, we've been looking at the 13 African Games, and in Accra, Ghana. In Accra, Ghana is Isaiah Benjamin, who is the #1 sports writer in Nigeria, the president of the Sports Writers Association. Nice to have you, Mr. President.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, you are. So far, have you experienced the dream, the African dream in Ghana? Because that is the theme of this year's African Games.
Yeah, well, so far so good. I think everything is going on smoothly. Yesterday, the 8th, was actually the official opening ceremony of the 13th African Games, and it was magnificent, I must say. Virtually the 54 countries that are participating were in attendance, and about 29 events will be completed across 10 centers. So it was a good one, I must say. And so far so good. Nigeria is doing well. We have started, we are already on the medal table with 3 medals. We have 2 silver medals and 1 bronze medal on table tennis. Some of our matches are ongoing as we speak, and we'll be having other medal events tomorrow. So far so good. Everything seems to be going on well. The athletes are doing well. We have visited the games village several to be sure that our athletes are on top of their preparations. We have had conversations with Federation President. I just told you the NOC President is there. We are just talking with him. Just talking with the minister. And so we are ensuring that everything is ongoing and going on well. Our athletes are on top of the day. And we are very hopeful that we do our athletes will be Nigeria proud. Don't forget in 2019, Nigeria came second on the table. And we hope to surpass it this time around. If we can't come first, certainly not being below number 2. That is our expectations.
Okay, Nigeria, if they can't come first, they have to maintain their second place position. But we understand there has been some logistic problem that has, affected some of the events. We understand some athletes can't even have access to the restaurant because of accreditation badge devices having faulty operations.
No, I think people need to get that and get it very right. Alright, because the something is that if you are the game village and you don't have accreditation that says that you can be part of the meals, so going to the restaurant to have meal there is not a thing that you should get. You must get things done. Alright? For instance, for the journalists, accredited journalists can go to all venues. Alright? But again, you don't have your teacher does not qualify you to go to the restaurant to take food that is meant for athletes. So we need to get that very clear. But so far, so no athletes have any such challenge, and I can tell you that athletes have been fed. I have had cause to even visit the restaurant, and I could see that the meals are superb. Alright, so except for individuals that do not have their tax do not cover that they should go to the restaurant. I have personally gone to the restaurant, and I've had their meals, not one go to I go through, just to understand that the meals are okay. And I think none of the athletes are complaining so far so good.
Okay,
any other person that you see complaining, as the start does not qualify him or her to visit the restaurants. Yeah.
Okay, let's look at support, logistics support from the Nigeria High Commissioner in Ghana. Are you having Team Nigeria having some kind of logistic support from the High Commissioner in Ghana?
Yeah, in terms of, I mean, we also just had a one-on-one with the High Commissioner in Ghana here now. Because he also came to see the Honorable Minister, and I think so far so good, he's doing well. But in terms of logistic support, the Ghanaians have done a very perfect job. All right, from the game village, there are vehicles that takes you to every sporting center. Every sporting center, every other game center, there are vehicles, all right? So, and you don't necessarily have to pay as long as you have the tag, all right? Once you have your tag as part of the either accompanying officials, journalists, or whatever, I mean, you get taken to wherever you are doing, so you have no problem whatsoever. So, in terms of logistics, I don't think we have any problem. Our athletes also and their officials do not also have any problem.
Well, one issue that has been raised, a big concern, is the fact that athletes under the age of 18 were not allowed at the opening ceremony. Is this true?
Well, I wouldn't know. I'm not too sure about that, and I can't confirm it right or wrong. But I do know that I saw athletes that are below ages of 18, and they were at the Lagos Sporting Center. Where I sat at the VIP, I saw even younger persons below that age. So why would they prevent athletes below the age of 18 from entering? So I don't think that is completely true. I can tell you for free. All right, because this is not an age event. All right, All African Games is not an age event. So I don't know why they will be talking about it. I've seen athletes that are far younger than 18. So I don't want to believe that very true. All right, I have not also had any official complaint to that effect. So I can't say anything about that, to be precise. But I have seen athletes that are younger, all right, than 18. They are there. So.
Okay, Mr. President, I know you're a very busy person. You must be running off somewhere, and so let me.
Yeah, that's very correct.
Okay, let's look at Team Nigeria. In the football event, which has started before the opening ceremony, the Flying Eagles stumbled, while the Falconets had all 3 points in their first game. What chances do we have in the football event?
Yeah, well, you see, I personally was together with the NFL president when we watched our match with Uganda. Yeah, our guys did well, but I must say for free that in that match, the Ugandans have played us. All right, but I think the coach has been spoken to. He already know areas that need to be tightened up in our subsequent matches. All right, our Falconets have gone well. I've been the first 3 points. And I think our Flying Eagles will also do well. You see, the thing again is that most times it's not the beginning that justifies the end. It's the end that justifies the beginning. I mean, AFCON is just very fresh in our mind that the host country, Ivory Coast, narrowly qualified as best losers. But eventually, between the winner. All right, so anything can happen. I think areas that need to be tightened up in that in the Flying Eagles, I think the coach is working very tirelessly to ensure that in our subsequent matches, we will come on top of the game.
Very busy day and period ahead of you, Mr. President, but I hope you find time to enjoy the ambience and Accra.
We are trying.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much for this opportunity, and I wish you the very best. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the #1 sports reporter here in Nigeria, Benjamin Isaiah, of course, President of Sports Writers Association of Nigeria, giving us his feel there. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
You're welcome.
Well, Kingsley, you had the President of the Sports Writers Association of Nigeria, Swan, giving us his feel of what has happened in Accra.
Yeah, for me, I think he has actually cleared the air now about some of the things we were hearing. That the athletes were not giving proper logistics and all of that. It's good of a thing that it actually come up to clear that one. I think some persons might now be rest assured that the athletes, of course, would go down there and do their best. And talking about the accreditation, he has actually also cleared that one of the fact that if your accreditation is not up to a certain extent, you are probably not allowed to
go to that area.
Go to that area. So for me, I think for what we've seen so far, thank God he has actually come up to clear the air. So there is actually a fair condition for athletes down there in Ghana at the All African Games. Well,
away from the All African Games, we have to begin to we're running out of time. Boxing now, and this weekend I've seen Anthony Joshua, Pumel, That's the word. Pumel Francis Ngannou of Cameroon, French citizen. Kingsley, no one expected that it was going to be 2 knockdowns and 1 knockout. It came too fast. He had the first knockdown in the first round. In the second round, that power punch to the ear of Francis Ngannou ensured that he had to be attended to with oxygen. He had to be administered oxygen for him to not to be completely dazed. It looked so easy, but yet full of power.
Full of power. The right hand of this beauty, whatever. That's it. That's what I saw yesterday. Boxing is experience. Joshua had those numbers of punches, and he was able to get 12 and 2, knock down Francis Ngannou. He's an experienced boxer. Ngannou was just coming to boxing, not that very much experience. That's how he threw all those punches, and at the end of the day, no one really held water, as it stands. So for me, I think it's about experience. Experience really played very well for Anthony Joshua.
Anthony Joshua threw actually 99 of power punches, 99 power punches, which saw him land 5 on the body of Francis Ngannou, 2 sent him to the canvas, while Francis Ngannou threw only 21 power punches, and only 3 of those power punches did land on the body of Anthony Joshua, who did not shake him at all. Like I mentioned to you earlier, we saw oxygen being administered at the end of that second round so that Francis Ngannou will not continue to be dazed. And from here, where do Francis Ngannou go? He's fought 2 fights in the heavyweight category in boxing, and he has lost all 2. After flooring Tyson Fury, everybody thought Francis Ngannou could be the new deal in heavyweight boxing.
Yeah, it actually tells that he still has a long way to go when it has to do with boxing. He started in a very difficult way, fighting the big boys, in boxing. Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua. Sometimes it's good for you to start in a difficult way. When you start in a difficult way, at some point, it might be easy. So for me, I would just advise, Francis Ngannou not to quit boxing. He was actually asked, after that bout, what's the way forward for him. He said he's still going to combine UFC and boxing at the same time. And I think for me, it is actually a very good decision if his energy, can carry him. I think for me, he still has a lot, to learn when it has to do with boxing. And for me, he should just continue, look for a means of probably taking up another opponent, but not a heavy weight boxer anymore. You should look for someone that he can probably challenge with.
He's in the heavyweight category.
He's in the heavyweight category, but
maybe a lesser known heavyweight boxer.
A lesser known heavyweight boxer.
Well, according to Francis Ngannou, he believes that it was a bad day in the office against Anthony Joshua, and that he will be back another day to contest. So he's not leaving the heavyweight boxing category. Who wants to leave the heavyweight boxing category? He's fought for 9 years, in the heavyweight category, the Ultimate Fight Championship, and he earned just about cumulatively about $15 million US in 9 years. And now in 6 months in the heavyweight category of boxing, Francis Ngannou has earned as much as over $35 million US. He had earned about 10, in the first fight against Tyson Fury, that rose up to about $15 million US. Now he's earned an additional $20 million US, which could further rise to even 35 or even 40 million US. So who says that you cannot enter into the boxing ring, take 2 punches and make a box? I think the family of Francis Ngannou will have a lot to benefit from these 2 fights he's seen in heavyweight boxing category.
Yeah, of course, they will really have a lot to benefit. Over $30 million. I tell you, not it's actually a very huge one, for the man. Talking about, Francis Ngannou.
In 6 months.
In 6 months.
He fought for 9 years in the Ultimate Fight Championship.
I didn't make that huge amount of money.
He got just barely $5 million US.
So I think he should just continue. But, as it stands now, he should just go in, and trying to improve, of course, on himself, because boxing is a new terrain for him. I think the more he does, and the much he goes into training, I think the better he will be going forward. But talk about what the man has achieved, despite the fact that the 2 bouts he has fought, he actually lost them. But I think it's a good way for him, good starts. And talking about the money aspect of it, good one for him. But I think Francis Ngannou should continue boxing and then go back, into training and see how he can improve himself.
Well, where do Anthony Joshua go from here? He too, well, as Francis Ngannou says, he will continue in boxing. Anthony Joshua, is it Tyson Fury or Alexander Usyk? We know that Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury have about May 18th, and thereafter there will be a second rematch. And after that rematch, it could be Anthony Joshua if all is well, according to the promoter of Anthony Joshua.
Yes, it could be Anthony Joshua. I think Joshua, after that bout against Ngannou yesterday, he was asked what next for him. He said he's ready for anybody. He's ready at this point in time.
Tyson Fury?
Tyson Fury or Alexander Usyk.
Usyk has beaten him twice before.
Yes, maybe they might go for a trilogy this time around if he eventually beats Tyson Fury.
It is expected that Tyson Fury will win Usyk, and Joshua will now have the opportunity of meeting with, with Tyson Fury. Well, that's what you can take from boxing, and we have to wrap it up. But just before we wrap it up, this weekend as well, the Basketball League fourth season is here. You are aware that for the first time, 4 cities and 4 countries will be hosting the Basketball League. It's starting this weekend in Pretoria, that's in South Africa. And from there, we'll go to Cairo. From Cairo, it will be Dakar in Senegal. From Dakar, it will be Kigali in Rwanda. 4 teams are in the Kalahari Conference, that's what it is called. And these are teams who had to qualify. Cape Town Oilers from Uganda is in that conference. And the Petro Luanda of Angola is there as well. Not forgetting FUS, Fuse of Rabat from Morocco. Then we equally have Dynamo BBC from Burundi. What are your expectations for this year's Basketball League? Quickly, because we're running out of time.
For me, I think it promises to be an interesting one. You saw the way, of course, the games, of course, have been spread from one, countries, to 3 countries, as it stands. So for me, it will actually create more viewership, for the Basketball African League. We're going to see about 48 games, being played in total in this one. So to take a look at the expansion and the inclusion of the new conference now, I think it's going to be impressive. But we're going to be seeing what the new teams, of course, will be coming up with. The Fuse, of Morocco. They talk about the Dynamo of
Dynamo BBC from Rwanda.
Rwanda as well.
No, Burundi.
And we'll see how far, of course, they'll be able to go down this time. It's always not easy, of course, for new teams, in the Basketball African League. But let's see what, of course, they have to, offer at the end of the day. For River Supers, I will see them in the Sahara Conference, and they are in a very, very tight group. I think we'll just look for a way to see. They just look for a way to see how they can actually skate through. They've actually got some new players. Let's see how far, of course, they'll be able to go in this edition of the Basketball African League.
If you're full of basketball, watch out for a Nigerian 19-year-old Israel Otibor who plays for Dynamo BBC of Burundi. He is one of the prospects that is expected to leave maybe the Basketball League to the NBA draft any moment soon. He's featuring for Dynamo BBC of Rwanda. We'll keep an eye on him, of course, do reporting his activities and skills for you out there. That's the much you can take, but we'll just have to wrap up the show with our sports extraordinaire for this weekend. And it couldn't have been any other person than Vincent Enyema. Vincent Enyema has been adjudged to be Africa's best goalkeeper over the years.
Impressive one. I think for me, if we take a look at what he has done over the years, he has actually done well. I think 101 appearance, for the national team, talking about the Super Eagles of Nigeria, a huge feat for the man. He's won so many titles for himself, club and country. I think that actually, of course, gave him that, accolade, greatest, African goalkeeper down here. So for me, I think it's really a huge one, for Vincent Enyema.
Well, next weekend we'll definitely be back with more expos on the Basketball League, where we are into the season 4. First to be held across 3 different countries, 3 conferences. We've never had 3 conferences before, and in 4 different cities in Africa. Until next week when we return, remember, peace and unity are clearly pathways to progress. Always enjoy here on Atlantic Television Network.
from the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today.